All the news and information to get you ready for today's game.
Into the end zone, touchdown!
The Publix Tailgate Show is brought to you by Baptist Health, Farah and Farah, Yucatan Guacamole, and by Everbank. The Publix Tailgate Show starts right now.
Well, today's game against the Falcons is a big one for a few different reasons. And the first, well, it's obvious. The Jaguars are back in London for their 10th game in the International Series. It's a big deal for the franchise, which has worked tirelessly to build a base of fans and sponsors who celebrate and support with them every fall. But second, and perhaps even more obvious, is that the Jaguars are in a surprising early season losing streak and are in desperate need of a win. Hello and good afternoon from Wembley Stadium in London. Good morning to all of you back in Jacksonville. I'm Brian Sexton. Mike Dempsey is with me from the Hyundai Studios at Everbank Stadium in Jacksonville, and we welcome you to the first hour of the Publix Tailgate Show. Publix, where shopping is a pleasure. The Falcons and Jaguars are coming up at 9:30 Eastern Time, which means math. Very good early morning to you, Mike. Are you a coffee drinker? Have you had one today?
I'm not a coffee drinker. I cannot stand coffee whatsoever, but I've had my energy drink, and I'm ready to go, Brian. How are you? Greetings. Good morning.
I'm good. It's great to be back at Wembley Stadium. You know, Mike, you've been around this game long enough to understand this statement. It just keeps getting bigger, right? Where you think, wow, the NFL has reached its zenith. It doesn't. There are more people and there's more interest in the game in London than ever before, and it makes sense because the Jaguars have put a concerted effort. They've got a staff on the ground here. They're out promoting in the community. There were community events this week besides the parties at the pubs last night. They've got Jaguars fans who are visiting London involved. It really has become a big deal and a very important game for the Jaguars in their season.
Well, and on top of that, the Jaguars are seen as a team on the rise with a lot of talent. Even though the 1-2 start, we kind of belie that. We're entering what we hope is going to be kind of a golden era renaissance of Jaguars football, which obviously, the British fans and the European fans have had time to acclimate themselves to becoming NFL fans and particularly Jaguar fans. But, Brian, it's always easier to support your team when you got a winning product.
Without a doubt, and that's not what we've seen the last couple of weeks. So the big question, whether it's online or in conversation. Yesterday I was at an event, and it came back to, is this a must-win for the franchise? And I get it. From the standings perspective, no, it's not a must-win. There's plenty of football left. But I think from the perspective of a franchise, of a team, of a group of men in the locker room that need a confidence boost, I think today is a must-win.
Well, not just for the team itself in the locker room. That's obviously important. For the fan base to remain engaged and hopeful that all their goals and dreams can be realized this year. Yeah, absolutely it's important, Brian. I mean, it's not that they lost to the Texans. They've made a habit out of that. But after the opening offensive drive, they really weren't all that competitive. They drew within 7. They had that kickoff return that they allowed, but they ended up getting beaten by 20 points last week in a game that everybody had put in the win column for the Jags before the season kicked off. So, yeah, 1-2 and not playing particularly well with a date with the Buffalo Bills, who we know are very dangerous next week. Nobody wants to see the Jags take them on at 1-3.
Mike, if you had gotten out of Marty McFly's time machine last week and told me I've been to the future and I'm back and I have seen the game and the Jaguars would lose to the Texans by 20 with a rookie quarterback, not a young quarterback, a rookie quarterback, and all the injuries they had, I would have told you, I don't believe you. There's no way you could have convinced me. And that's the thing that has me questioning this team this week is what I thought I knew. It turns out I didn't, and we're going to talk about that. A couple of things to point out. They played without Zay Jones last week. Clearly that has an impact on the offense. Zay is one of those guys that is often overlooked, even in Jacksonville, for the plays that he makes. Also, they'll play today without Devin Lloyd, who, even though he isn't that sack, interception, fumble recovery, touchdown guy that he was at Utah, at least not yet, he's an important part, especially today against taller receivers in the tight end in Kyle Pitts. And then Jamal Agnew, who this team might be 0-3 if he doesn't return that punt in Indianapolis and flip the field heading into the fourth quarter. He is really questionable today with a quad injury. So the Jaguars are not only going to have to overcome whatever confidence issue they may have, whatever mistakes they may have made last week, they're going to have to overcome the loss of 3 guys who are starters.
Yeah, no question, but that's life in the NFL, right? I mean, you already mentioned what the Texans were missing last week. They were missing more starters than that just on the offensive line, and another 4 defensively as well. So, the Falcons just lost a young middle linebacker this week, going on injured reserve, expected to miss the next 4 to 6 months. of downtime, so his season is over. So it's the constant churn in the National Football League, Brian. Nobody's going to feel sorry for you. The Jaguars drafted depth for a reason. Now it's going to have to be put into play today.
You got it. We're going to hear from some of that depth. Chad Muma coming up in just a moment. Are you ready for the top stories?
Let's do it.
All right, here you go. So Doug Peterson this week in front of the media was asked the obvious question. What do you tell your team?
I always tell this team, too, it's not how we start, it's going to be how we finish, the season. And, we're making mistakes. It's not like, teams have really done much, to us as far as beating us, where we're beating ourselves, and that's usually the case. And once we figure out, and a lot like last year, we were kind of beating ourselves. And once we figure out how to, kind of get out of our own way, take care of the football, tackle better, all those types of things, then things begin to go in your favor.
Look, Brian, I think everybody has confidence in Doug Peterson, but he's already said, look, early is over with, right? I mean, what happened last year, you can't count on a repeat of that. You get your 2-5 or whatever, and you still have that belief in the locker room. You get on a roll. It's tough to replicate that season after season. Doug Peterson, I think, would tell you in his heart of hearts that this is probably a must-win for the Jaguars in terms of their psyche right now.
All right, so let's move on. Trevor Lawrence obviously has had some struggles in the last 2 weeks, and we're talking about third down and the red zone in particular. Mike, I looked down at my chart at one point last week, and I saw that for the season, they were 7 of 29 on third down, 29%. If you're going to be an elite offense, you got to be at least 45% on third down. And the best offenses, the Kansas Cities, those great indie teams with Peyton Manning, they were routinely at 55, even 60%. And so he was asked the question, and he has a bit of a long-winded answer here on what they have to do to be better on third down today and stay on the field.
Just playing loose. I think, we have so much talent, and we're an offense that has a lot of talent, and we have the guys to be a great offense, but we have to go out there and do it and execute. And just think when those situations come up, just keep playing free, play like it's a normal down, like nothing's different. It's third down, but it shouldn't change anything. And I think that's kind of the emphasis too. And for all of us, is just go play. We got great players. I'm gonna find them. Travis is gonna do the right thing when he gets the ball. The line up front is gonna match the guys. They're gonna do a great job. We have all the right people, so it's just not to overthink it and don't, I think one thing too is losing magnifies everything. It always does. So, you can't panic and throw everything out just because we've had some struggles. Some of the stuff, like I said, is just simple stuff that we've executed the past 2 years, and maybe we just haven't the first few games for whatever reason, maybe different reasons. But, you can't panic and just throw everything away after 3 games. So we know who we are, we know what our identity is, and we know what we have to improve on, and we need to improve on them, but you can't lose all sense of who you are after just a couple games.
Yeah, definitely a lot of things have contributed to their woes on third down, Brian, but if they just catch the catchable passes and convert some of those third and fourth down opportunities that they had, I think we'd probably look at this offense a lot differently this year. They've been somewhat plagued with drops throughout the first 3 weeks.
Well, and it also feels like if there's no success on first down, even a yard or two, that you're setting yourself up for third down, and that's where the anxiety, that's where the confidence starts to waver and wane. And so to get some things going, and you mentioned drops, and no drop was bigger last week than Calvin Ridley on that first offensive series for the Jaguars. And, of course, he stood in front of the locker and answered all the questions this week. He did his best to stay level and calm. And when all that was through, I pulled him off to the side and I said, have you been through this before? Have you had this sort of tough stretch, and how do you get through it?
You go back to work. You try to throw it away. Everyone hates to drop a pass. You think I went out there to drop a pass? I come out here and practice hard, catch pretty much every pass. You feel me? I made a mistake. I can't wait to get back out there, show the fans, whoever, my mom, my family, and my teammates. I'm working hard for that, to be a great player.
This has been Calvin Ridley's kind of MO, deny that he's pressing it all. But I don't know, Brian. You look at it, I think if you didn't hear that, you say you drop a touchdown early, you get some penalties that it seemed like he was over-eager to get started. You want to make up for your early mistake, and I think it would be only natural. And now you compound that perhaps today with Calvin Ridley going up against his former team. Let's hope that he doesn't have an early miscue that we're going to be kind of on alert as to whether or not that's going to affect him the rest of the game.
My immediate reaction last week was that the Jaguars needed to dial it back for Calvin Ridley. It has felt since training camp opened, really since he arrived, that everything was geared towards him. And he's an alpha. He's a number one receiver. He's that game-changing guy, 1,300-yard receiver, can really change the dynamic of this offense. However, last year we saw things working well with Christian Kirk, Zay Jones, and Evan Ingram, and, of course, Travis Etienne out of the backfield. And my immediate thought is, well, you want to settle everything down, just kind of lean away from Calvin. Make him a part of what you're doing. Don't make him what you're doing. I'm not sure you can do that today, though.
No, I think you got to have him be a big part of it. I mean, like, look, you look at the targets, they've actually been fairly evenly distributed. It just looks like they've tried to get Calvin Ridley going early in football games. And, Brian, that's kind of the way it is in the National Football League. Nobody looks at Minnesota and tells them to stop throwing so many passes to Justin Jefferson. When you're a number one receiver or presumptive number one receiver in the National Football League, you're going to get an abundance of targets. So I think they're going to continue to go to him heavily until he – and unless he lets them down on a consistent basis, I expect him to ultimately come through and show us why he's so highly regarded.
All right, well, we're going to see how he does against the Falcons, his former team. He obviously is motivated today to play better by last week, but also now the added incentive of his former team. Chad Muma will start today in place of Devin Lloyd. Muma was a high draft pick, a guy with a lot of talent. He has been in and out of the lineup in various situations, but for at least this week, and he will play next week as well because Devin Lloyd didn't make the trip from Jacksonville to London. We asked him about playing these Falcons, who have a wide variety of weapons, and in particular, the rookie running back from Texas, Bijan Robinson. And the quick thought is, what'd you see from him on tape this week?
He's a great player. He can make plays both running and catching as a receiver, and he's very elusive. And I think there's different ways that he can attack us, and we just gotta really be prepared for that and swarm him.
Yeah, look, I think you're going to see this tested quite a bit, right? Backup linebacker in there, and as you mentioned, Brian, Devin Lloyd has some coverage prowess there. We know Bijan Robinson's a do everything back. They're getting him his touches, and really the running game has been split fairly evenly between he and Tyler Algier, but Bijan Robinson clearly the preferred pass-catching option out of that backfield, and I think you're going to see a number of targets today if they can get him isolated on Muma.
Fantasy guy that you are, what do you like about Bijan Robinson?
Oh, everything. I mean, he's got great contact balance, which is a big thing. He's got speed. He's just, a good hands. He's a perfect back for today's NFL. He's got speed. He's got size. He can run between the tackles. He's an amazing receiver. I think he's been underutilized so far, and the Falcons have been, I think, smart to kind of ease him in and not give him a 20-carry burden right out of the gates. Algier is a good NFL running back, and he's been productive here early in the season. But I think as the season goes on, you're going to see Bijan take more of a 60 or 65% snap share and touch share away from Algier, and I think you're going to see some big games, very productive fantasy games in the second half of the season out of him.
Before I came up here to our broadcast position, I was down on the field with Fred Taylor and Bucky Brooks, and both of them compared him very favorably to LaDainian Tomlinson. And if that's who he is, yeah, he's going to be a fantasy delight, I would think.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, he's got it all. Well-rounded back, and shows you he was one of the few guys that people question taking in the first round. If you're going to take it back in the first round of today's NFL draft, you better have a vision to use him as an all-around feature back like I think ultimately the Falcons will do with Bijan Robinson.
All right, another guy who is going to be necessary to get him started early is Josh Allen. The Jaguars need their pass rush. It was evident in the Week 1 win over the Colts. It was evident in holding the Chiefs to just 17 points, but it was nowhere to be found last week at Everbank Stadium, and Josh Allen is a guy that they are counting on. He's obviously made this trip several times, and I caught up with him in the locker room, asked him about the trip, about all the different intricate details that it takes to have your body ready to go. He was excited to get over here for more than just the game.
Definitely. It's definitely going to be new because I got to pack a little bit more. Obviously, we're going to be down there 10 days. But I'm, definitely looking forward to it. I enjoy my time out there in London. I enjoy competing with the teams out there. I enjoy playing in front of those fans. So I'm excited. I'm excited to eat some food out there and get some work.
And hopefully the work. Yeah, you don't often hear Americans excited to eat the British food, but good for Josh Allen.
Yeah, if you find the right restaurants, and those of us who have been here enough kind of know where those are, you can enjoy it.
I hope
but most importantly,
Yeah, I hope
Yes,
he eats in
go
the
there.
Falcons' backfield today.
Yes.
Brian. That's where he needs to be eating.
Exactly where he needs to be, Mike. In the backfield, it would be great to see Trayvon Walker, get that pass rush going as well. Well, up next on the Publix Tailgate Show.
Yeah, I mean it's natural though. I mean it's not the product. It's not the product we promised right earlier in the season.
That's Jag safety Andre Sisco. He's this week's Baptist Health Player Interview. Plus, CBS Sports senior writer Pete Prisco joins us. The Falcons and Jaguars less than 3 hours away from Wembley Stadium. And you're listening to the Publix Tailgate Show on Jaguars Radio.
As the official supermarket of the Jacksonville Jaguars, Publix is helping fans gear up for game day with the limited-time Jaguar sub. Piled high with hot deli chicken tenders, boar's head bacon, cheddar cheese, coleslaw, and barbecue mayonnaise on a white sub roll. The Jaguar sub is an easy, delicious meal for any fan. Make it an ultimate game day by ordering the Jaguar sub online for in-store pickup. Publix, where shopping is a pleasure.
What makes that famous call
Dinner's ready!
even better? It's cooking a great meal with natural gas, enjoying faster cooking times and precise temperature control. And now getting a valuable cash rebate up to $300 when you install an energy-efficient natural gas range or cooktop.
Anyone want seconds?
When you show your home love with natural gas, it loves you right back. To learn more and how to qualify, visit peoplesgas.com/rebates.
The creamiest, dreamiest soft ice cream you get from Mr. Softy. For a refreshing delight supreme, look for Mr. Softy. The milkshakes and the sundaes and the cones are such a treat. Look out for the ice cream stand, enjoy it from your seat. The creamiest, dreamiest soft ice cream you get from Mr. Softy. For a refreshing delight supreme, look for Mr. Softy. S-O-F-T-E-E, Mr. Softy.
Hello, I'm Dan Fields. If you're in the market for a full-size 8-passenger SUV, look no further than the Defender 130. And with the Defender 90, the 110, and this 130, there's luxury in the right size for everyone. Right, Sammy?
Plus, when you buy or lease from Land Rover Jacksonville, you'll become a member of the Fields Amenities Program with complimentary loaners, car washes, our cafe, and much more, all at no charge.
You say there's nothing quite like the feel of the open road when you ride a motorcycle. You know it takes concentration, knowledge, and skills beyond those required to drive a car. Ride Smart Florida would like to take this opportunity to remind you to enjoy the road, but to always ride smart. S-M-A-R-T. Say no to drinking and riding. Make yourself more visible to motorists. Always wear your helmet. Ride in control. Train regularly and get endorsed. Visit RideSmartFlorida.com for more details. Do you ride smart? This message is provided by the Florida Department of Transportation.
You've been putting back a few, and a few becomes a few too many. For a moment, you think of calling for a ride, but nah, you live nearby. What's the worst that could happen? You get pulled over, your insurance goes up, you lose your license, you total your car, you kill someone. The results of driving drunk are tragic. That's why law enforcement is out there looking for impaired drivers to save lives. So if you think you're okay to drive after a few drinks, think again. Drive sober or get pulled over.
Paid for by FDOT.
Now the Publix Tailgate Show continues. Brian Sexton from Wembley Stadium in London. Mike Dempsey is at the Hyundai Studios at Everbank Stadium in Jacksonville. The Falcons and Jaguars coming up. Kickoff time is 2:30 in London, 9:30 a.m. in Jacksonville. And Mike, I think Pete Prisco last week was about as confident as all of us that the Jaguars were going to beat the Houston Texans and get back on track after the loss to Kansas City. I imagine that that was part of your conversation this week.
Well, yeah, I mean, his confidence and really more the reaction of the team now, and wanted to find out if Pete thought the Jags are under more pressure this week due to how poorly they played against the Texans.
Oh, I don't think there's any question about that. I mean, you're sitting in a situation where you thought you were at home, you're going to beat a team that you were favored to win and to beat, and you sat there and laid an egg. So, of course, there's much more pressure on them in this game. They have to find a way to win. You can't go to 1-3. All that talk, the preseason hype, everything has been washed away with one bad performance. So now you got to redeem yourself and try and turn it around.
Doug Peterson said this week, Pete, that it's hard to recall too many games where the offense, defense, and special teams all let a team down and contributed the way it did last week to the defeat from the Jags. What's going on with this team right now?
Well, I think Doug's quote about preseason expectations and press clippings and all that kind of telling that maybe they're not putting the work in the right way. And when you watch the tape, you notice a bunch of little things happening. I mean, you have wide receivers false starting. That should never happen. You have guys that are playing zone, and instead of sitting down in the zones, they're running right into the defenders in the zone. I mean, running right into the man. It just doesn't look like they're ready to play in terms of preparation, and I think that's where he's trying to put that out there. And it's on the coaching staff as well, but it just doesn't look like they're in any rhythm on offense, and they can't rush the passer on defense, and that's a major problem.
Calvin Ridley's been a big focal point this offseason. Pete, now through the first 3 weeks, started off the season hot and has kind of struggled the last couple of games. Is it just you think he's pressing to try to live up to all the hype that he's gotten?
It might be, Mike. I mean, look, when he jumped, he false started twice, dropped the touchdown pass that, should have changed, maybe would have changed the outcome of the game in the tenor of the game, at least. And he does look to be pressing. And he's another guy that doesn't sit down in the zone. He ran into the man a couple different times. And he's got to pick up his play. It's one thing to be called the number one receiver. It's another thing to act like it and play like it. And I think that's where he's got to start, picking up his play a little bit and becoming more of a downfield threat. They also have to throw the ball down the field a little bit more. And I can see where receivers would get frustrated a little bit. They're very horizontal in terms of how they call the game. And one of the reasons being the interior of the offensive line has struggled.
Yeah, Pete, obviously the pass rush didn't get home last week against a quarterback that had been sacked 11 times in the first 2 games. Dwan Smoot not eligible to return this week, but he is making the trip to London. How much could his return give a boost to this defense?
Well, you don't know. I mean, the guy's coming off a major injury, and any time you have that kind of injury, the push-off is the most important thing. You come off the Achilles, you've got to be able to push. So we don't know. You hope he can still be the same type of player. If he's the same type of player, it'll be good to have him back. But, the focus has to be on the edge guys. They've been, doing – I mean, Josh Allen's made some plays and done some good things, but Trayvon Walker, you're the number 1 overall pick. It's time to pick up your play. It's time for you to become something off the edge and attack the quarterback and pressure the quarterback, and he hasn't been doing it.
The other first-round pick from last year's draft, Devin Lloyd, didn't make the trip to London, had hand surgery. Pete, Chad Muma will fill in for him over the next couple of weeks, it looks like. Is there a drop-off here, or do you think Muma will get the job done?
There's a drop-off. I mean, Muma was blocked last week, but Devin Lloyd's been getting blocked. And that's one of the problems with the defense. They're not getting off blocks. And Muma had all kinds of problems getting off blocks last week. So that is a concern. Lloyd, the one thing about Lloyd and Walker, you get drafted in the first round, you're supposed to be making splash plays. Where are they? And so even if he's not there, is there a drop-off? Of course, there's a little bit of a drop-off. I don't know how much, but Muma wasn't very good last week.
All right, Jags and Falcons kick it off in just a few hours. Pete, how do you see it going today?
I think Jacksonville will rebound. I think the offense will do better than they've been doing. I think they'll get more into a rhythm. I think they'll take some more shots, and I think you'll see a bounce-back day from Ridley against his former team. So I think Jacksonville wins it. But you know what? They better hope that they don't lose that game because it's the end of it. Not the end of it because they're in such a bad division, but they'd be in a big hole.
And Brian Pete has been nothing but consistent. He's picked the Jags to win every week, so going back to that well once again and showing confidence that they'll bounce back and get the job done.
Well, and I think the big story at the very end of your interview with him, the thing that stood out the most to me was that the second-year guys that we talked about taking a big step, Walker and Lloyd, have not done that. We won't see Lloyd in London. Lloyd's of London. But we do see Walker today, and, man, especially after that game that Aiden Hutchinson. Steve Hutchinson was a guard from Michigan. That Aiden Hutchinson had the other night, he needs to turn it on because he really has a a cloud hanging over him right now based on production.
Right, and it's not his fault necessarily in terms of, the comparison with Aiden Hutchinson, but look, you are the number 1 overall draft pick, and we're expecting to see some pass rushing moves added to the repertoire. We haven't seen them yet, and, very disappointing, not just in Trayvon Walker, but the whole pass rush in its entirety. To not get C.J. Stroud on the ground last week was almost unbelievable after they gave up 11 sacks in 2 games.
And they need to get the pressure on this quarterback, Desmond Ridder. He is not a highly touted guy, but he's got 7 starts and only 1 interception. So a little bit like C.J. Stroud last week, he takes good care of the football. And that brings us to our player interview presented by Baptist Health and the Jacksonville Orthopedic Institute, the official sports medicine provider of the Jaguars. And it's Andre Cisco, and he showed us in the first half of the Kansas City game, he can high point a ball. Get it. Go up might be the key words today against an Atlanta receiving corps that features a 6'6" tight end and a 6'5" wide receiver. Look, Cisco watches a lot of tape. He knows you got to be on your game to handle the bigger receivers.
It's not that it's a mismatch, but you know what you're getting. You're getting a physical, big-time matchup in that aspect of ground and pound, guys that could block, and then, throw up 50-50 deep balls and go up and get it. So you know what you're getting in that aspect.
You show the leaping ability against Kansas City, so I'm not doubting you. But when you leap against a guy who's 6'7" like Kyle Pitts, you kind of have to time it, right? I mean, is that the key?
Yeah, no, most definitely. I mean, we were talking about earlier, it's like basketball players, kind of like what their receivers and tight ends look like real tall guys, long guys that could jump and go up and get the ball. So, yeah, against those guys, you got to time it right, because if you don't, it could be a loss.
Is it technique-based mostly when you're talking about those guys and making sure you're dialed in on your technique too?
Yeah, so you got to be more hands-on. You got to play your game, but also know who you're going up against, obviously. And getting hands-on in those situations usually help you against bigger matchups.
Just as soon as you start talking about these big receivers, they do have an electrifying young running back in Bijan Robinson. What have you seen from him?
He's awesome. I really like his game from what I've seen on film. He's hitting the hole hard and doing what a lot of rookie running backs don't do early on in their career. He's finding the hole and being very electrifying. Once he gets in space. So I'm looking forward to that matchup. It's good. It's always good for me to match up against good running backs like that. And I'm happy that we're doing that in London. That'll be fine.
You guys have been good against the run so far this year. How much of that is a product, Andre, of all you guys coming back, having 11 guys who are around the ball who have been there together?
Yeah, I always say we're built to stop the run. That's the last thing we worry about, almost going into games. Like, obviously it's a priority, but we know that we're going to stop the run. It's our identity, and we've done it consistently. So, it's just about continuing to do it against a team that wants to run it, and they're going to consistently run it throughout the game, all 4 quarters. That's how they want to win. So we have to we can't – it's different. Some teams are all right reverting to the past, but they're mostly probably going to stick with the run.
How much of stopping the run is an attitude?
It's an attitude, it's a mindset, and then it's about practice. I think in practice you even got to visualize stopping. You can't tackle in practice, right? But knowing your fits and setting it up for other guys to get tackles, it's a very selfless thing to do, run stopping defense.
You've been to London several times with this team. Do you enjoy the trip?
I do. I love it. I mean, for me, it's getting out of town, but I mean, it's a rare opportunity. It could be obviously stressful in terms of preparing for it. But I think you look at it, it's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity when you look at we're the first team to be going over there playing 2 games. It's an international contest. You can't overlook that.
Anything you do in particular to be physically ready to give your body a chance to be at its best when you get there?
I know I'll be getting a lot of extra recovery before we get on the flight, just IVs and things like that, stay hydrated. Make sure I sleep on the flight, take care of myself in that aspect. And then once we get there, just stay off my feet as much as I can. I think my rookie year, I learned the hard way. Kind of just, I was so excited to be there, and then you get tired on game day. So you really just want to stay off your feet and get ready for Sunday.
Final thought, what would one win do for this team right now?
I think it would just continue to show us what we already know. I think, you don't expect to play your best ball early in the season, but you do want it to show up in the win column while you're going through the process. So that's the tough part about it, is not being in the win column right now. But, we know who we are. We know that it takes time to get where we want to go.
I don't sense any lack of confidence on your part, even though folks are wondering what's the matter with the Jaguars.
Yeah, I mean, it's natural, though. I mean, it's not the product. It's not the product we promised right earlier in the season. We expect to win every game, and we look like we're going to win every game. But it's the NFL, and you get some things that you don't see coming.
Couldn't shake him, Mike. Tried to find it. Tried to see a little crack in the armor there to see what they're thinking. At least Andre Sisco and Tyson Campbell, who was sitting next to him when I was talking to him, are guys that still believe that this football team is capable of being what they promised they were going to be before the season began, which is an up-and-coming team.
Well, they said it all last year, even when they were down, 2-5 start, whatever, Brian. They never, at least publicly, questioned whether or not they had the ability to fulfill the goal of winning the division, and they did it. So I understand the belief in themselves. And quite frankly, I agree with Andre Sisco. A lot of times you're trying to play your way into shape kind of in terms of how well you're going to be playing. I don't think Jaguar fans particularly care how well they played today as long as they come out with one more point than the Falcons. Let's stack a win or two here, and then let's worry about hitting on all cylinders.
All right, well, we're just a little over 3 hours away from finding out how the game begins and about 6 hours away from finding out how it ends. We'll see. All right, coming up in about 15 minutes, Hall of Famer Tony Baselli and Jeff Lageman join us from the booth. But up next,
we know what we're doing well, and we know what we need to improve on. That's what we're trying to fix week in and week out.
That's offensive line coach Phil Rauscher. Up next on the Publix Tailgate Show, the Falcons and Jaguars kicking off at 9:30 Eastern Time in Week 4. We're back after this on Jaguars Radio.
As the official supermarket of the Jacksonville Jaguars, Publix is helping fans gear up for game day with the limited-time Jaguars sub. Piled high with hot deli chicken tenders, boar's head bacon, cheddar cheese, coleslaw, and barbecue mayonnaise on a white sub roll. The Jaguar sub is an easy, delicious meal for any fan. Make it an ultimate game day by ordering the Jaguar sub online for in-store pickup. Publix, where shopping is a pleasure.
Touchdown at Jaguars away games when you fly nonstop from Jacksonville International Airport. Join the Jaguars in New Orleans and Pittsburgh. Watch them win in Houston and Nashville. All the other Jaguars games are just one short connection away. And if airport parking has you stressed, be sure to visit the Jax Airport website before traveling to the terminal. On it, you'll find information about the status of on-airport parking in real time. See if your favorite areas are available or if you need to call an audible. Visit flyjax.com for more information.
Flight by Yingling is the next generation of light beer. For those who don't follow trends, but craft them. Flight by Yingling is 12 ounces of uncompromised refreshment from America's oldest brewery. With only 2.6 grams of carbs and 95 calories, this is premium refreshment 6 generations in the making. Don't just raise a glass, raise the bar. Flight by Yingling. Available wherever beer is sold. DG Yingling & Son Incorporated, Pottsville, Pennsylvania. Please enjoy responsibly.
Frank Frangie here. When you want barbecue in Jacksonville, you want Bono's Pit Barbecue. You can find Bono's locations all around town and on game day at Everbank Stadium because Bono's is the official barbecue of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Over 70 years of authentic Southern Pit Barbecue. We are the local barbecue joint in BBQval for generations of people in Jacksonville. Go to bonosbarbecue.com to learn more or call 904-880-8310 today. And remember, if you don't see a pit, it ain't legit.
Feeling hungry, Jaguars fans? Fuel your Duval energy with a delicious Stallmeyer all-beef hot dog on game day as you support your Jacksonville Jaguars. Whether you're at the game or at home, it's not game day without a Stallmeyer all-beef hot dog made in Florida. Stallmeyer all-beef hot dogs will fuel your energy to help bring on a victory for the Jacksonville Jaguars. Stallmeyer all-beef hot dogs are available at your local Publix supermarkets. Don't feel hungry, Jaguars fans. Fuel your energy with the official hot dog of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Stallmeyer.
It's storm season, and JEA is committed to keeping you informed. In the event of a storm, we'll text and email you about the status of your services. We use Facebook and Twitter to post real-time updates. Our live outage map on JEA.com lets you track restoration progress. And as crews work to restore services, our storm outreach team will be in local neighborhoods to answer your questions. Because as your community-owned utility, JEA is here to keep you safe and connected. Your community, your utility.
And welcome back to Week 4 in the National Football League, the Publix Tailgate Show from Wembley Stadium in London and from the Hyundai Studios at Everbank Stadium in Jacksonville. Brian and Mike with you. Our show brought to you by Publix, where shopping is a pleasure. 9:30 kickoff Eastern time for the Jaguars against the Falcons today. And, Mike, the offensive line has been an area of concern, and we expect that we're going to see more of Tyler Shatley here. Maybe next week we will see some of Cam Robinson. The Jaguars at least have some options. Normally when you get into a season, you got what you got. But the offensive line has got to play better.
Oh, you're right about that. They do have options, Brian, especially with Cam Robinson coming back next week. They've known they've had the Tyler Shatley option, but I think they wanted to let it play out with Ben Bartch as much as possible, remembering he won the job last year and was playing pretty well, and then, injuries set him back. But, look, even though they didn't allow any sacks to the Texans, Trevor Lawrence was under a lot more pressure than C.J. Stroud was. I think Trevor's handled it pretty well overall, but they've got to improve in that area. But, on the other hand, the run game continues to flourish. Travis Etienne had a really good game last week, so hopefully they're going to hang in there until reinforcements come along. But you're right, the overall quality of play on both lines of scrimmage needs to be better for this football team.
Well, so I grabbed Phil Rauscher after practice one day this week with the idea that the offensive line can play better, and that was my takeaway after getting done with our conversation. So far, the protection's been inconsistent, the running game better last week, but stop and start the first two games. Rauscher's a highly regarded young coach, someone that Doug Peterson leans on a lot. But he readily admits they can play better and believes in this group and the work they're getting done on the field and every day after practice in the meeting room.
We're just always looking to get better. I think that we did some really good things last week in the run game. At the end of the day, there was no sacks, but we got to clean up protection, and we're always looking to improve. I mean, it's a young group being together, so it's fun to see them improve week to week, but we're just looking to make strides forward.
Doug talked about how they didn't get a lot of time together in August, and you kind of have to work through that. How long does it take an offensive line to build that rhythm and that communication and continuity?
It takes a little bit of time. I do think that we're coming together now, and I thought that there's always things that happen. Like you take, for instance, Cole. He came in last week after Anton got hurt, and we didn't really miss a beat. I mean, we still kept running the ball and protecting halfway decent. So it's just one of those things that, you're not going to be complete till you get to the Super Bowl because you're always hoping to grow and keep going in that way. We just got to make sure that we shore up some things protection-wise, that the quarterback feels comfortable back there, and keep running the football.
Things aren't always as they seem with an offensive line, and it's a tough thing for fans to be able to see everything that goes into it. Does the offensive line, kind of like the quarterback, get more of the blame perhaps than is necessary?
No, I mean, we're there for everything. We're there to shoulder the blame. We're there to take the blame, whatever you need. I mean, at the end of the day, we're always working for the football team. I mean, that's just a mindset that we have, and we know what we're doing well, and we know what we need to improve on. And that's what we're trying to fix week in and week out. And there are some things that I think we did pretty well, and there's things I think we need to really, really fix. But blame is blame. Who cares? We just keep fighting and keep working. That's our mindset.
What's one thing you think you could fix this week that would make everything work more seamlessly?
At the end of the day, out there at Wembley Stadium, it'd be real nice for Trev's jersey to come out the same color it started.
Right. Yeah. I know tackle was a question because Cam was going to miss some time, and you had a rookie starting at right tackle. Seems like Walker's really played well. How's Anton done, in your opinion, of the tackles right now?
Anton's doing really well. I mean, there are some things where circumstances have led where he's fought through things, but at the end of the day, for playing in 3 games and playing at a high level against some of the best players in the National Football League, I think we're happy with his development. I mean, no rookie comes in at tackle in the National Football League and is all pro right away. Maybe there is, but at the end of the day, it takes time to grow and fit a system and learn all the nuances that take place in the National Football League.
Walker got time at the end of last year when Cam was hurt. Has he continued that high level of play?
Oh, absolutely. He's doing a really good job in his protections, and he's doing a really good job, anchoring down that left side for us. And we're really excited with how he's played. And it's one of those things where he's just got to keep growing and keep learning. And you can never be satisfied, but I think he's doing a really good job.
Tell me about the running game and where you feel like you're at. Last week it seemed like there were plenty of holes and the running game was more consistent. Are you taking progress there?
I think so. I think that just like the protections, the running game can take time to develop consistency. We're looking for consistency. We're looking for efficient runs. Now, with that, we're hoping for the explosive run. But I'm happy with where we are moving the ball efficiently at times in that, getting 5 yards, 4 yards, 9 yards, 8 yards, and they had a 16-yard run. We just got to keep building on that, knowing the dam's going to break, and bam, here comes that explosive play.
This, in an extent, has become sort of a cerebral game. The running game seems like the old caveman mentality. To some degree, the offensive linemen like that.
Yeah, we love it. The perfect game would be run it 70 times, but nobody would come watch. But that's at the end of the day, you want to exert your will on somebody, and the running game allows you to do that better than anything. And we try to be proactive in pass protection, but there's nothing better than just running off the ball and hit somebody in the face.
Been around this game a long time. Final thought: what would one win do for this team?
One win. It helps you build. It just helps you prove the process that you've been working on, because these guys have been working their tails off, and a win builds on that, and then it helps you continue to prove that the process is doing the right things.
Mike, I walked away from that interview with that phrase, exert your will on someone, at the top of my mind, because we haven't seen that from this offensive line yet this season. Now, it's tough to do in the NFL. There's a grown men on the other side of the field, but you'd like to see them be able to dictate the tempo of the game from the inside this week with that running game.
Oh, absolutely. And I think, though, the interior of the offensive line has been the biggest question. As you heard the praise for the way Walker Little has played right now, Brian, and he may end up reinforcing the interior of that offensive line, because it's hard to imagine he's going to not have a starting role how well he's played to this point. But, yeah, it'd be great if we had an offensive line that could really impose their will. But I don't know if they're playing well enough right now to really expect that against the Atlanta Falcons today.
Well, they just don't look like – and the word on Luke Fortner was he needed to get stronger, and we haven't seen that push. And, so when we talk about flexibility and options, next week if Cam Robinson's ready to go, and that's a question mark because he didn't play great in August, and you pop him in, you move Walker in, you can do some different things, which, again, you couldn't normally do if you didn't have this situation. And in talking to guys about it, it's not a quick fix. You can't go, oh, yeah, we're going to do that and it's going to work. But at least it's something they can work on this week on the practice field.
Well, they can. Yeah, and not to interrupt, but, they also have a quarterback who gets rid of the ball pretty quickly as well, and that obviously can make up for some deficiencies in protection.
Well, if you're looking for the MVP of the truck game, folks, then look no further than Ford F-150. It's loaded with impressive capability and designed to dominate work, play, and everything in between. This truck makes tough look easy. Your local Ford dealer is a proud partner of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Well, time from Wembley Stadium in the Publix pregame show for our weekly commentary from Rick Ballou.
Need to get away? Yep, that's what the Jaguars absolutely have been saying. That's been the theme this week after the destruction by Houston. A totally humiliating game for Jaguar fans, but an opportunity now in this week-to-week league to bounce back. And at London, the Jaguars have had some success. They're 4-5, and an opportunity today to have it even at 5 apiece. You look at their overall win percentage, both in Duval and on the road, that's outstanding. So does things change today for the better? We'll find out. A disaster is probably the best way to describe last Sunday. What you hope is that the Jaguars got it out of their system. Very similar to what happened a year ago when they did lose in Detroit, albeit that game happened in early December. Can you make the case that the exact same thing happened this year? It just happened in week 3. You got to start early. It almost happened with a 3-and-out, right? Lawrence to Wrigley, 30 yards, touchdown. Oh, wait, a drop. Okay, Calvin Ridley's going to be fine. He's a very good football player. We do know that. What we don't know is, can Jacksonville respond? Can they score early? 3 first quarters so far this year, a total of 7 points. That happened out on the road week 1 in Indianapolis. 2 weeks ago against Kansas City, first quarter, nothing. Last week against Houston, first quarter, nothing. Today, you run the ball. Atlanta defensively is pretty good there, but I have confidence in Travis Etienne and this offensive line after what we saw 7 days ago against Houston. If you can run the ball, you then get the tight end involved. Look for Evan Ingram to have a big game today. Atlanta really struggles covering tight ends. Also, their pass rush, it has not happened. That includes Calais Campbell. Atlanta only has 3 sacks so far this year. A balanced attack today. Trevor Lawrence with his weapons. Look for the Jaguars to get back on the right side of things. And Jacksonville today to even up their record at 2 apiece.
All right, Rick, well, coming up, it's hour 2 of the Publix Tailgate Show. JP Shadrick will be here, but before we get to the second hour, Jaguars analyst Jeff Lageman and Hall of Famer Tony Baselli join us from the broadcast booth. The Jaguars and Falcons kick off at 9:30 Eastern time back home in Week 4. You're listening to the Publix Tailgate Show on Jaguars Radio.
As the official supermarket of the Jacksonville Jaguars, Publix is helping fans gear up for game day with the limited-time Jaguars sub. Piled high with hot deli chicken tenders, boar's head bacon, cheddar cheese, coleslaw, and barbecue mayonnaise on a white sub roll. The Jaguars sub is an easy, delicious meal for any fan. Make it an ultimate game day by ordering the Jaguars sub online for in-store pickup. Publix, where shopping is a pleasure.
Tackle your marketing needs with Kessler Creative. Providing direct mail services for more than a decade, Kessler has a wide range of services from small mailers to large banners and signs. Draft Kessler as your first pick to receive the best targeted mail list. Elevate your business and be on the winning team with Kessler Creative. Kessler Creative, results-driven marketing and proud partner of your Jacksonville Jaguars. Unlock your potential at the University of North Florida. A top public university with more than 100 majors, UNF is number 1 among state schools with the highest percentage of graduates employed in Florida. Affordable tuition, programs in high-demand fields, and faculty who care. Swoop into your future at UNF. Visit unf.edu to learn more. Mr. Chubby's Wings is a whole lot more than just wings. Craving the ultimate game day experience? Look no further. Swing by Mr. Chubby's and indulge in the biggest and best wings in town, all while soaking up the lively atmosphere with fellow sports fans. With plenty of game day specials and locations on the West Side, Fleming Island, Ponte Vedra Beach, and new this season, Everbank Stadium, they're here for all your game day needs. Mr. Chubby's Wings is a proud partner of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Mr. Chubby's Wings, before the game, after the game, and during the game.
Headquartered in Jacksonville, Florida, CSI Companies partners with leading organizations across the country to deliver workforce solutions. As a proud sponsor of your Jacksonville Jaguars, CSI crafts personalized operations to fuel the success of businesses, both big and small. Whether it's finding the right talent for a job or seamlessly managing a project from start to finish, CSI has over 3 decades of experience in getting the job done. This is your Workforce Solutions Reimagined. Visit CSICompanies.com.
Hi Jags fans, Andre Sisco here, safety of the Jacksonville Jaguars. This season, I've partnered up with Luray Peanut Company to serve a greater mission for the Jacksonville community with the Peanut Pickoff. Here's the deal. Every time the Jags make a pick, Luray is going to donate to youth football initiatives in and around the Jacksonville area. On top of that, the Jaguars Foundation will match every dollar. With each interception, our team inches closer to that W, and our kids get to train for a brighter future. Remember, it was always the Jags. Duval!
And welcome back to the Publix Tailgate Show. Publix, where shopping is a pleasure. Brian Sexton at Wembley Stadium. Mike Dempsey in Jacksonville at the Hyundai Studios at Everbank Stadium. Kickoff comes your way 9:30 Eastern Time. The Falcons and Jaguars just over 2 hours away. If you're a Jags fan who's always on the move, we've got the perfect plan for you. With the bundle at the bank, you can purchase tickets to 3 or more games, starting at only $58 per game. Get the flexibility you want for your time this fall. Visit Jaguars.com/tickets or call 904-633-2000. Now time for the first rounds on us.
New York Jets, first-round choice, Jeff Lageman.
Jacksonville Jaguars have selected tackle Southern California, Tony Vasilek.
Jeff and Tony are here with me at Wembley Stadium, and it's time for UF Health Finding Solutions. UF Health, delivering compassionate care and world-class outcomes. That's our game plan. Hey, fellas.
What's up? Morning.
When'd you get here? You've been here all week.
I got here Monday. I got to Prague on Monday.
Oh.
And then I got to London on Thursday.
Prague.
Yes.
We are quite civilized.
Yeah, he's a world traveler.
Yeah.
It is a great city, I'll say that.
It is a clean Paris.
It's clean and it's cheap. It is. I could not.
Well, that fits you to a T, my friend.
I'm like, the food
that fits you to a T. Without Loggeman there to put his credit card down and pay the bill.
That's right.
I mean, Logs would not have, he would have been worried because Logs only likes spending as much money as he possibly can on a meal.
That's what I mean.
And so it was.
Hey, if it ain't expensive, it ain't good.
Yeah, you're bringing up some bad memories of big bills in restaurants.
Yes.
In Atlanta, of all places. Let's get to our UF Health Finding Solutions. That's their game plan. How do you get this team off to a quick start this week, which has been a problem for them, it seems like, forever?
Well, I think it's imperative, especially because you're kind of clunky right now as a football team. And if you start clunky in this ball game against Atlanta, I think it just plays into the Atlanta Falcons' hand, for one. And number two, it takes away your confidence. Look, I think last week, if Calvin really makes that catch early in that ball game, I think it's a different ball game. But that gave negative thoughts to the Jaguars organization, I think, as a whole, and then it gave encouragement to the Texans, which, look, it's a young, unproven team with a young quarterback, and Tony, today it's important as well.
Well, and I think everything Jeff said is exactly right. I will add, stop beating yourself. If you just don't beat yourself in this league, you're going to win like 60, 70% of the time. And drops, pre-snap penalties, missed assignments. Clean that up, because this team, part of the clunkiness, and I think Jeff is being kind saying mild clunkiness or kind of clunky. It's very clunky, especially offensively, all 3 weeks. And if you can clean up the mental errors, the pre-snap penalties, the lack of focus, I think you're going to be just fine. I think you win this game. But the team has not been able to do that this year.
Before I bring Mike Dempsey in and let him ask a couple questions, why are they clunky? Why? I mean, we didn't expect to see this based on the limited bit we saw in August. They played pretty well against the Falcons in that preseason finale. Why do you suppose they're clunky? Everyone on the outside says, well, it's the expectations. The pressure of living up to the expectations in the preseason hype. Do you see it that way?
I don't buy living up to expectations. I do buy maybe having a little bit of overconfidence. I think what Doug said was interesting. Maybe we're reading the press clippings too much.
Right.
And I think the danger, especially when you're a young team that hasn't had a lot of success, and really, if you go back to last year, only had success the last half, where they really got it going. And you can maybe take things for granted. And the focus and the details that it takes to be a winning organization, a winning team, slip by a little bit. And you don't get those things done. And I think focusing on your task, focusing on what you can control and what you have to do, and shutting out all the outside noise, whether it's good or bad. Because, I remember Tom used to tell us, Jeff, all the time, just as dangerous as them talking, actually more dangerous than them talking poorly about you and saying negative things or being critical, is when everyone starts praising you. Because if you believe that hype, that's going to be more dangerous for you as an individual and as a team, because I think you lose a little bit of focus to the details.
Yeah, and I'm not a big believer in reading press clippings, and that has a big impact on a lot of things. I mean, for me, I think sometimes you forget how hard it is to win this league, and sometimes you got to get reminded. And this football team has had a significant reminder over the last couple weeks, and I think in week one they were very fortunate that the defense was bailing them out and that they had a very young quarterback who wasn't ready to win yet. And so I think it's been an eye-opener, and hopefully it has had that effect on this football team, because if you don't play well against this Atlanta Falcons team, okay, they're veteran enough on defense, and offensively they got, I think, one of the most electric young backs in the league, and he'll run all over your
behind.
All right, let's get Mike Dempsey to get a word in edgewise here. Hey, Mike.
Good morning. Well, morning here, guys. Good afternoon to you. Look, one of the ways teams are good is when they're good on third down, and the Jags have been anything but. How do they improve in that regard?
Well, I think it goes back to winning on first and second down. I think they have to stick to the run game more. And I think it's key. I mean, Jeff just said it. They got to win at the line of scrimmage on both sides. They better stop the run and they better run the ball. So, first and foremost, third down success starts with success on first and second down. And then when you do get in that third down situation, it's about protection. You have to give your quarterback time, especially in third and long, to go operate and scan the field. And then to state the obvious, Jeff, how about just catch the ball?
Catch the damn ball. And I'm going to take it a step further. I think Trevor needs to completely ignore numbers and names, okay, and just let the system dictate where the ball needs to go. And last year, it was kind of that way. You know, you had Evan Ingram, and sometimes it was Zay, sometimes it was Christian, sometimes it was Etienne. Felt like that this football team is almost pressing the ball to Calvin Ridley too much.
And Mike, to pick up on what Jeff's saying, if anything, where the focus needs to be on offense is 13 and 17. Those are the guys that if you're going to press the ball and get the ball, specifically and get people involved, I think Kirk and Ingram need to be involved in the pass game very early. I think they're the best weapons for this team right now.
All right, defensively, guys, I mean, look, we know the pass rush was a question mark coming into the season, but a Texan team that had allowed 11 sacks in 2 games and the Jags don't get C.J. Stroud on the ground, is there hope for any improvement in the short term here?
Well, I mean, you'd like to think that it could happen because Detroit sacked Desmond Ridder 7 times in last week's ball game. But to be honest with you, Mike, I think the Jaguars' pass rush is what it is. I think it's going to be an issue all season long, and hopefully they can have an impact and get a little bit better. But right now I think it's going to be an issue.
All right, Mike, thanks so much. Tony, Jeff.
Good to be here. It's good to be right next to you this week.
Yeah, I can reach out and touch you.
Yeah, you can give us a hard time.
And I tend to before the day is out. All right, Tony and Jeff will be back, obviously, with kickoff and game day and everything ahead. JP will step in for hour number 2 with the top stories of the day. Falcons and Jaguars coming at 9:30 Eastern. You're listening to the Publix Tailgate Show on Jaguars Radio.
As the official supermarket of the Jacksonville Jaguars, Publix is helping fans gear up for game day with the limited-time Jaguars sub. Piled high with hot deli chicken tenders, boar's head bacon, cheddar cheese, coleslaw, and barbecue mayonnaise on a white sub roll. The Jaguars sub is an easy, delicious meal for any fan. Make it an ultimate game day by ordering the Jaguars sub online for in-store pickup. Publix, where shopping is a pleasure.
You've been putting back a few, and a few becomes a few too many. For a moment, you think of calling for a ride, but nah, you live nearby. What's the worst that could happen? You get pulled over, your insurance goes up, you lose your license, you total your car, you kill someone. The results of driving drunk are tragic. That's why law enforcement is out there looking for impaired drivers to save lives. So if you think you're okay to drive after a few drinks, think again. Drive sober or get pulled over.
Paid for by FDOT.
You say there's nothing quite like the feel of the open road when you ride a motorcycle. You know it takes concentration, knowledge, and skills beyond those required to drive a car. Ride Smart Florida would like to take this opportunity to remind you to enjoy the road, but to always ride smart. S-M-A-R-T. Say no to drinking and riding. Make yourself more visible to motorists. Always wear your helmet. Ride in control. Train regularly and get endorsed. Visit RideSmartFlorida.com for more details. Do you ride smart? This message is provided by the Florida Department of Transportation.
It's storm season, and JEA is committed to keeping you informed. In the event of a storm, we'll text and email you about the status of your services. We use Facebook and Twitter to post real-time updates. Our live outage map on JEA.com lets you track restoration progress. And as crews work to restore services, our storm outreach team will be in local neighborhoods to answer your questions. Because as your community-owned utility, JEA is here to keep you safe and connected. Your community, your utility.
Feeling hungry, Jaguars fans? Fuel your Duval energy with a delicious Stallmeyer all-beef hot dog on game day as you support your Jacksonville Jaguars. Whether you're at the game or at home, it's not game day without a Stallmeyer all-beef hot dog made in Florida. Stallmeyer all-beef hot dogs will fuel your energy to help bring on a victory for the Jacksonville Jaguars. Stallmeyer all-beef hot dogs are available at your local Publix supermarkets. Don't feel hungry, Jaguars fans. Fuel your energy with the official hot dog of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Stallmeyer.
We've spent a lot of time in our homes. I'm on a Zoom call.
Dinner's ready.
But we've learned that when we love our home, it loves us right back. Now you can keep that love going when you install energy-efficient natural gas appliances and earn up to $1,925 in cash rebates. You'll love endless hot water, faster drying and cooking times, and ongoing savings and comfort. To learn more and how to qualify, visit peoplesgas.com/rebates.
The Publix Tailgate Show continues right now.
And it's hour number 2 of the Publix Tailgate Show. Publix, where shopping is a pleasure. We are 2 hours away from Week 4, the Atlanta Falcons and the Jacksonville Jaguars from Wembley Stadium, London. 2:30 London time kick, 9:30 a.m. in Jacksonville. JP Shadrick from Wembley Stadium, London. Mike Dempsey in the Hyundai Studios in Jacksonville. Good morning to you, Mike.
Good morning or good afternoon to you, JP.
Yeah, getting ready for some football. The Jags' 10th trip to Wembley, or to London, 9th game at Wembley today for the Jaguars, and trying to get back on track here in London. They haven't won in this stadium since 2017, and trying to get back on track as a whole. Dropping the last 2. Kai Stevens joining us here at Wembley as well, and they've got to get on track a few different ways here, Kai.
They sure do. We talked about that change of scenery, but it's only a good change of scenery if you turn that into a win. Doug Peterson tried to stay as much on routine as they can, and I guess London is a little bit of a routine for the Jaguars at this point. They have it down to a science, so I hopefully won't be seeing a listless effort from them out there today.
Game day weather is brought to you by the St. Johns River Water Management District. Florida's water, it's worth saving. Here at Wembley Stadium, it is a partially retractable roof. It is fully open today. It is 70 degrees and cloudy, as it usually is here in London. No rain in the forecast. Should be cloudy in the low 70s Fahrenheit today. And a light breeze occasionally kind of swirls around the stadium here, especially on the left side here at Wembley. Here are some of today's top stories, starting with the Jaguars, of course, in London. The first NFL team to play back-to-back weeks in the UK. They'll play across town at Spurs next week. The Jags are 1-2 on the season. And head coach Doug Peterson is embracing the chance to get the team away for a couple weeks.
It's a good opportunity. It's no different like in training camp when we went up to Detroit. You know, the guys are all in the same hotel. We're eating in the meal room, meetings. You know, we're doing everything together. Sort of one of those bonding type experiences as a football team, as coaches. And this just happens to be over in London. And it's a great place, and we're excited to be going over, and a chance for us to kind of, you know, sort of reset maybe a little bit and regroup and try to get back on track.
So, Mike, they're at least the first week, we're out in the countryside, a place called The Grove near Watford, northwest of Wembley even, so further out. There's a practice field on site. There's the hotel, it's a fantastic resort. So you are kind of away from it. But, I mean, either way, this team's got to get back on track. If that's what it takes to do it, Mike, all the better, right?
Sure, and if that's what they think will help them do it, all the better, JP. But they just need to play better football, fundamentally. They're making too many mistakes. They're hurting themselves. And, you know, just talking with Jeff and Tony in the last hour, and Jeff talking about, you know, the teams that just don't beat themselves are going to win the majority of football games. And I don't think it really matters where they're playing if they don't improve the level of execution that we've seen over the last couple weeks.
Yeah, Kai, good football travels, but bad football travels, too. It can go both ways.
Yeah, after last week's game, Doug Peterson was kind of like the rest of us, just kind of stunned, lost for words. They got back to where they usually are about midweek, and Doug has a feeling, I mean, you have to feel good in the sense that they're beating themselves. It's not as if they're, you know, it's a terrible roster and they're getting outworked. They're just making dumb mistakes. So if you theoretically clean that up, you should be able to win football games, and hopefully we won't be seeing a cascade of bad events like we did last week.
The Jags offense going through that rough patch as well. Trevor Lawrence, Jags quarterback, knows most teams go through it, but they know the time is now to try to get it right.
You look at any team every year, and that's just not the case. You're going to have a stretch where you might not play your best ball, and the good teams find a way to get out of that and get out of their own way and start executing. So obviously, last 2 weeks we haven't played well, and we know that, and that's just where we stand. And we also know it's a long season, and we still got 14 more games left. So both those things can be true and are true. So that's just where we're at, and we understand that, and we know the sense of urgency to play better and to execute and to do what we know we're capable of, especially offensively.
Let's hear wide receiver Christian Kirk on the same idea, discussions amongst the players this week.
A lot of it has been us focusing on outcomes instead of just focusing on the process. And also just, I've been telling a lot of guys, like, I've been having fun out here, and going out and enjoying playing the game that we're getting to play and not putting so much pressure on one another and ourselves to go out there and make a play and to win the game and, expecting things to happen. Just go out there, take it one play at a time and have fun while you're doing it. And so that's been one of the things that, me personally, I've been trying to portray, just having fun, have some confidence with what you're doing, have some swagger about what you're doing, and the rest will handle itself.
All right, so, Mike, this offensive line has some moving parts, of course, and they've had some issues early in the season. The Jaguars lead the league in drops. They haven't been able to execute things that have been open, and it's a full team effort to get this thing right on offense.
Oh, there's no question. I think that's the biggest disappointment. I don't disagree with what Trevor Lawrence is saying. Teams do go through rough patches, JP and Kai, but it's this side of the ball that was expected to really carry the Jaguars, particularly early in the season, and how well things had clicked in the offseason, seemingly integrating Calvin Ridley into this offense. The fact that they've had so many of these mistakes, mental and physical, and the offense just has kind of looked like a jumbled mess at times, has been disappointing because it's not just been one thing. It's poor execution on third down one time. It's Trevor Lawrence being inaccurate another time. It's a drop pass. It's a bad protection. It's a combination of things. So there's no one easy fix to what's been going on.
Yeah, Kai, it's a whack-a-mole almost. Hey, one thing one week, one thing the next, and it just never stops.
I'm with Mike on that in the sense that I know people want to talk about the pass rush, and it's not great, and the defense, but this is an offensive team. If the team is going to be successful, it's because they can score, 4 touchdowns plus every single game. And I don't know, hopefully law of averages. There's a lot of good players on the offense. They just need to kind of put it all together. I think we've talked throughout the week on different shows about maybe they're trying to force things with Calvin Ridley a little too soon. He is new to this team, and yes, he's super talented, but he hasn't played football in a while. So should we be expecting him to come out and play like this crazy all-star that he has the capability to be, but he hasn't touched the football field in a while? And he's been having a little bit of an issue with the drops, and now he's playing against his old team, so you imagine he'll be hyped up for that. So I'm hoping they aim a little more towards some friendly, familiar faces, Evan Ingram, Christian Kirk, get things going, and then when we go to Calvin Ridley, hopefully he'll be a little more open, not always double covered.
Let's hear from Calvin Ridley against his former team. When the Falcons were last in London in 2021, that was the week they left Ridley behind for personal matters, using air quotes there. That was the beginning of the end. He didn't play again for the Falcons, and he did not make that trip to London. This is his first trip to the UK, and playing against his former team today. He was asked if it's any different this week.
Not really. Just another game, honestly. Just excited to play.
You can understand how people might think it's probably not just another game for you, though, right?
No, it ain't, but, try to make it seem normal. No, I got friends over there, man. It's still the first team I played for, and I know a couple guys over there. It's still love, I don't think they gave up on me. I think they helped me, and we all sat down and had a decision, and we all made a choice.
All right, Mike, Ridley against Terrell on the other side for the Falcons today. That'll be something to watch.
Yeah, and look, I don't think he has any animosity towards the Falcons. Ultimately, they let him go to a good opportunity. And maybe he did for the way his injury was handled a couple of years ago, but I think at this point, Calvin Ridley needs to play well just to get himself back on track, whether it's the Falcons or anybody else. And, yeah, granted, he is double covered at times, but most of his drops, when the ball gets to your hands, doesn't matter if you've been double covered or not, that's a catchable pass for a guy with his ability, and there have been too many of those that he hasn't hauled in so far.
All right, let's flip it to the defense now. Second-year linebacker Chad Muma will make the start today. Devin Lloyd is out. He did not make the trip after the thumb surgery, inserting screws in there. So Muma is fired up to get a chance.
It's unfortunate of what happens with Devin. Praying for him, hoping for a speedy recovery for him. But when it comes down to it, I'm excited for the opportunity, ready to step up. And, the preparation doesn't change. We're still preparing the same, but just ready to be out there with the guys on the defense, get their back, they got my back, and ready to run around.
All right, Mike, it's an offense that is run heavy. They were slowed down in the run game last week against Detroit. They had to throw it a lot. That didn't really fit into their plan. They've got tight ends, Kyle Pitts. Jonnu Smith has hurt this team in the past. And they've got a running back in Bijan Robinson that can really break free and do some things. So defensively, where do you start today?
Well, I think all those things are true. You want to stop the run, which is what the Jags have done, and most NFL teams are going to try to make you one-dimensional. If they can take that aspect away from you, it's going to be a little bit easier, and maybe you can get some pass rush situations going. But I think if I'm the Jaguars, I'm watching for the use of Bijan Robinson in the passing game today, trying to get him isolated on Muma. Devin Lloyd's a really good coverage linebacker at times, and I think that is an area I think the Falcons are going to test Muma early, so hopefully he'll be up to it.
We saw against
the leading rusher and leading pass catcher for them, Kai.
Yeah, but Detroit did a really great job of shutting down the run, and we saw that was successful because Desmond Ridder is not a rookie, but this is his first season starting, so he's rookie tendencies, right? He was sacked 7 times, and this is a team that put a lot of money into their offensive line, but that shows when Desmond's in the pocket trying to make a decision, he'll stand there for a minute. So if there's any chance of getting the pass rush going, after I said this last week against the Texans when C.J. Stroud had been sacked quite a bit, Desmond Ridder was sacked 7 times last week, so you got to hope these matchups are a little more favorable.
We've heard this before.
We have. I'm willing it into existence. Maybe if I say it again, it'll work this time.
There you go. Some of today's storylines heading into this matchup in London at Wembley Stadium with the Jaguars playing host to the Atlanta Falcons. Bootleggers, get ready. Luke Combs is bringing 2 nights of the Growing Up and Getting Old tour to Everbank Stadium May 3rd and 4th. With different special guests each night. Tickets on sale now. Visit everbankstadium.com. Kai Stevens with us here at Wembley. Mike Dempsey back in the Hyundai Studios in Jacksonville. Well, the team traveled in Thursday night, Friday morning, practiced at the Grove out in Watford. They're changing hotels after this game to go to another resort northeast of London, closer to Tottenham Hotspur. There's a lot of moving parts, a lot of events around this trip, Kai.
But I think it'll benefit them that they are here this week because they'll be, yes, there's movement, but after this game, they'll be settled there for the week. So, and it's outside of the city, so they're really hunkering down in a sense, kind of like what some teams do with training camp where they go to a college and they're kind of all in a dorm together. It's got a little bit of that feel to it. And hopefully we'll get a win today, and that will make next week a lot easier and hopefully give them a bit of a leg up where they can work on improving things and not kind of go from ground zero where we are right now trying to get the offense going.
Yeah, Mike, it's not must-win territory because that's really reserved for playoff things at the end of the year. However, it's a big one. They need it today.
Yeah, I mean, technically not must-win, right? But, I mean, if you're 1-3, the Buffalo Bills are a much more talented team than the Atlanta Falcons are. No offense to the Falcons. They're an up-and-coming team. So there's going to be a sense of desperation around this team, hopefully, in their play today because it gets really desperate if you fall behind with a couple of losses that a lot of people would have had in the win column before the season started. When you're projecting where the Jaguars can go, you're saying, all right, we're going to do this against the AFC South, this against the NFC South, and if you don't fulfill that, you've got a lot of other tough teams on the schedule. So, yeah, JP, this is as close to a Week 4 must-win for a team that's only 1 game out of first place that I can remember.
It's pretty remarkable right now. Of course, the Jaguars playing their 10th game in London. They lost here against Denver last year at Wembley. 2 years ago, they played at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium and won on a last-second field goal against the Miami Dolphins. There was no game here in 2020 with the COVID-19 issue. And then the Jags had lost the previous 2 at Wembley before that. So 2017 was the last time they've won in this stadium. That was a blowout win over the Baltimore Ravens. That was the Mercedes Lewis game, Kai. I think he had 3 touchdowns.
I would take a blowout game today. That would be really nice. Well, maybe Evan Ingram can have 3 touchdowns. We'll do another tight end and kind of keep it on brand.
Run it back, right?
Let's do it.
It's got to happen at some point. This is year 2 of a 3-year contract for the Jaguars with Wembley Stadium Direct and the Football Association here in England to host a game a year here. And there's really no thought of it stopping after that. So no official word or anything has come out during this trip, but you would imagine that Jaguars owner Shad Khan would love to continue this trend as it has moved along a decade so far. Plenty ahead from Wembley Stadium. We're about 15 minutes away from the inactives for today's game. Up next, Dan Orlovsky of ESPN. He has the call on ESPN Plus today We'll get his thoughts on the Jaguars the last couple weeks and how to get back on track. Kickoff 2:30 London time, 9:30 in Jacksonville for the Falcons and Jaguars in Week 4. And from Wembley Stadium, London, this is the Publix Tailgate Show on Jaguars Radio.
As the official supermarket of the Jacksonville Jaguars, Publix is helping fans gear up for game day with the limited-time Jaguars sub. Piled high with hot deli chicken tenders, boar's head bacon, cheddar cheese, coleslaw, and barbecue mayonnaise on a white sub roll. The Jaguars sub is an easy, delicious meal for any fan. Make it an ultimate game day by ordering the Jaguars sub online for in-store pickup. Publix, where shopping is a pleasure.
Everyone wins when two great traditions team up. Yucatan Guacamole is a proud partner of the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Our authentic guacamole recipe starts with hand-scooped avocados and ends up in your hands fresh and ready to enjoy. Grab some on game day at the Yucatan Cantina or Yucatan nacho carts around the stadium or at local retail stores. Sack your snack game with Yucatan Guacamole.
Headquartered in Jacksonville, Florida, CSI Companies partners with leading organizations across the country to deliver workforce solutions. As a proud sponsor of your Jacksonville Jaguars, CSI crafts personalized operations to fuel the success of businesses, both big and small. Whether it's finding the right talent for a job or seamlessly managing a project from start to finish, CSI has over 3 decades of experience in getting the job done. This is your Workforce Solutions reimagined. Visit CSICompanies.com.
Hey, it's Salem from Travel Camp RV, the official RV dealer of the Jacksonville Jaguars. I wanted to personally invite you to come shop with us. With locations throughout the Southeast, we're likely not far from you. We offer the nation's top RV brands. You can expect value pricing from the get-go and guaranteed best financing options. You can also find us online at travelcamp.com. Our mission is simple, to help more families make more great memories in an RV. Travel Camp RV. We've had the pleasure of doing this since 1982.
Since 1916, Duval Motor Company is here to keep you and your vehicle off the sidelines. Their all-star lineup of dealerships provides superior sales, maintenance, and repairs for every make and model with Ford, Honda, Acura, Subaru, Chevrolet, and everything in between. At every Duval location across North Florida, Duval Motor Company always puts service first. In-store, online, or at your front door. Get service first with DuvalMotorCompany.com.
Hi Jags fans, Andre Sisco here, safety of the Jacksonville Jaguars. This season, I've partnered up with Luray Peanut Company to serve a greater mission for the Jacksonville community with the Peanut Pickoff. Here's the deal. Every time the Jags make a pick, Luray is going to donate to youth football initiatives in and around the Jacksonville area. On top of that, the Jaguars Foundation will match every dollar. With each interception, our team inches closer to that W, and our kids get to train for a brighter future. Remember, it was always the Jags. Duval!
JP Shadrick at Wembley Stadium, London. Mike Dempsey in the Hyundai Studios in Jacksonville. The Publix Tailgate Show continues. And we're inside 2 hours from Week 4. The Atlanta Falcons and the Jacksonville Jaguars coming up in London. It's a 2:30 kickoff time here, 9:30 a.m. in Jacksonville. Of course, the first game of the day in the National Football League in Week 4. Mike, let's go around the NFL.
All right, let's do it. Let's keep it here in the AFC South. Of course, the Jags across the pond with you guys taking on the Atlanta Falcons. Meanwhile, the first place, that's right, I said the first place, Indianapolis Colts, despite losing to the Jags open the season, have won their last 2. They put a 2-1 record on the line when they host the 1-2 Los Angeles Rams. Today, the Colts will get their rookie quarterback, Anthony Richardson, back. He missed the last game and a half due to a concussion with Gardner Minshew filling in. Elsewhere, the 1-2 Houston Texans look for their second consecutive victory. They host the 2-1 Pittsburgh Steelers today. The Texans still without numerous starters due to injury, and that includes left tackle Laramie Tunsil and middle linebacker Denzel Perryman, but they will be at home today against Pittsburgh. And the 1-2 Tennessee Titans also at home today. They host the 1-2 Cincinnati Bengals. Second-year Titans wide receiver Treylon Burks will be out today because of a knee injury. The Bengals won their first game on Monday Night Football this past week. Cleveland tight end David Njoku's been added late to their injury report, is now questionable to play against the Baltimore Ravens today after reportedly sustaining burn injuries to his face and neck area during a household accident. NFL Network insider Tom Pelissero reported that Njoku's burns were caused by a fire pit in his backyard. Njoku's agent announced that he will be okay. The Browns host Baltimore at 1 p.m. And the Las Vegas Raiders have released defensive end Chandler Jones following his arrest this week. Jones was arrested late Thursday night in Vegas and charged on 2 counts of violation of a domestic violence protection order. Jones scheduled for arraignment on December 4th now. He had said in a social media post on Monday that he had recently been hospitalized against his will by the Las Vegas Fire Department and later taken to a behavioral health center. The team issued a statement on Friday saying they were, quote, hopeful that Chandler Jones receives the care that he needs. He and his family and all those involved are in our thoughts. JP?
All right. Thank you very much, Mike. That's a look around the National Football League. ESPN Plus is carrying today's game. It will air locally in Jacksonville. That broadcast will air on Fox 30 in the Jacksonville television market. Dan Orlovsky is one of the analysts for the telecast today, and I asked him about the Jaguars learning to play with expectations when we visited at practice Friday here in London.
Yeah, I mean, the NFL teaches you and kind of wires you in many ways to become a creature of habit and go week to week. And, you can fall into the trap of it's a long season because eventually those games run out. There's no need to panic because there are plenty of games left. But also, you can't just think just because it's Tuesday or Wednesday or Thursday of game week that what needs to get corrected from last week is going to just because. And so I think focusing on some of the things that are showing up. I learned this early in my career from Gary Kubiak. He said winning covers everything, not cures everything. And so when you win last year and the expectations, it might cover up some of the things that you aren't doing well habit-wise on a daily basis. And, I think last week's game is in many ways an aberration for anybody, let alone them. How many different ways can you beat yourself? So it's certainly learning from that, but also being aware, more than likely that's not going to be the case on a consistent basis.
Quarterback play. Trevor Lawrence, year 3, year 2 in this system. We know what he did down the stretch last year. He kind of flipped the switch after the London game last year where he threw the goal-to-go interception here against Denver, then realized, hey, we got to stop doing that. That's what happened down the stretch. But now carrying it over into year 3, there's a lot of pressure on Trevor Lawrence, but you have to be able to handle that.
Yeah, I think where that pressure is showing up is in those moments where you want him instinctually to be his natural self. Some of the third down and red zone throws, you could almost feel watching the tape, I'm trying to be so perfect here because, of those expectations. And he'll run very similar plays versus relatively similar defenses on first or second downs. And yep, that's awesome. And then he'll run, stuff very similar on third downs or red zones. And why are you waiting just a moment to throw that ball? Or I saw you cut that very similar concept loose in the first quarter with 9 minutes to go. So I think it's just getting him to that point, and he's got to get himself there of, making sure that he's, obviously those plays matter, but trying to just rely on his talent and his instincts a little bit more than forcing the ball to be perfect.
Dan Orlovsky with us, ESPN. Big game for Calvin Ridley, coming off last week's performance, first of all, right? 2 drops, 2 false starts, but then playing his former team this week as well. And it's a contract year, everything that goes with it. He just wants to be so perfect all the time. But Doug Peterson said this week he just has to be Calvin. Well, what is a true Calvin Ridley performance?
One of the top 7 wide receivers in the NFL, certainly one of the elite route runners and separators in the NFL. And so, when you watch the ball go from Trevor to Calvin, you go, yeah, that's a duo. That's one of the league's best duos. And obviously the drops last week showed, to be honest, the team leads the NFL in drops. So I think it's not just a Calvin thing. It's interesting because we called the Monday night game against Cincinnati and the Rams. And Jamar Chase had been very quiet to start this season, and Joe Burrow going to play. And Jamar was just like, just get me the ball, and I'll figure out ways that we win. And I think it feels a little bit like that coming off of last week where Calvin's got to have one of those, hey, just throw me the football type of games. And if I get 14 or 15 targets, I'll make sure most of them are in my hands, and it's good for our offense. So, sometimes I'm the king of loving creativity when it comes to offense. I also am the king of hating trying to do too much and trying to overcomplicate things. And there's a simplicity when you have elite talent, and you can kind of put those guys by themselves and see if that is a one-on-one matchup you love. And if not, you got plenty of other talent to work away from. So there's a little bit of go back to kind of the simple aspects of my guy better than your guy.
Dan, let's flip into this Jaguars defense now. It's a group that pretty much everybody came back from last season. That's one thing. The continuity helps. However, they're facing a running attack today in Bijan Robinson and a tight end group that can play without Devin Lloyd. He didn't even travel for the trip. So the challenges of Robinson, first of all, not many offenses in the league are geared up like this with a heavy run attack with tight ends.
Yeah, I think the first thing is they got to be so good before the snap. Atlanta and Arthur are so creative with their motions and their shifts and their personnels. And, they'll take one personnel, say, call it 21, 2 back, 1 tight end, and it'll look like 11 with like 3 wide receivers out there. Or then they'll take 22 personnel and it'll look spread out. Or they'll take 11 personnel, 1 back, 1 tight end, and it'll look like a run formation. So making sure they're really good pre-snap, and disciplined is going to be a big deal. And then handling the diversity of the run game is going to be a big deal. Arthur throws a lot of different looks at you in the run game. It's not just the zone concept, so that'll be a big thing. I think, for them to have a lot of success defensively, the interior, the defensive line's got to be great in the pass rush game. That's been a weakness for Atlanta, specifically in their play-action game. And Desmond Ridder, and I'm a fan of Desmond. He has 3 plays a game where you sit there and go, did you not see the guy? He will give them the opportunity to get hands on the football. They got to make those plays.
And finally, special teams. You can't have those gaffes like last week. That can lose you a football game almost faster than anything else. When you're missing a field goal, getting one blocked, they get a touchdown after that, and then the kickoff return. That's got to clean up, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's, again, like hopefully for them an outlier. Anytime you play a game that's so unique like this, when everything travels and you're in a different country and all that stuff, you always get worried about that because is there a lack of focus potentially? But I would imagine coming off last week, it's going to be a little bit more of the opposite, a little hyper-focus.
Dan Orlovsky, ESPN Plus with the call today, and you can watch it on Fox 30 in Jacksonville and hear the full conversation on the official Jaguars podcast network. It's free on iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you download podcasts. Mike Dempsey with us again back in Jacksonville. And, this Falcons running attack with Bijan Robinson, with the tight end ability, they've thrown to Pitts a lot. He's only caught about half of his targets this year. It feels like it almost feels like the Titans of some years ago, right, with these tight ends in the running game.
Yeah, look, this is not a quarterback, Desmond Ridder, that is ready to have a game plan put on his shoulders and throw the ball over the lot. I mean, JP, they won in week 1, and they only threw 1 pass to their designated number 1 receiver, Drake London. So they're content to play close to the vest. If they can beat you with the running game and short passes with the tight ends and, minimal exposure to Ridder, that's exactly what they're going to do. And plus, Ridder gives you a mobile dimension on 3rd down, much like Marcus Mariota used to do, where, you got to be careful on 3rd and 7 that you don't lose containment of the quarterback, and he moves the sticks that way. And they're going to be happy to grind out some first downs with Bijan Robinson and Tyler Algier. So it's on the Jaguars' defensive front to continue to play well against the run, number 1 today.
Plenty ahead in about 15 minutes. We'll get a Mike Dempsey fantasy forecast, and Frank Frangie will join us here at Wembley as well. Up next, a pregame Huddle Up podcast. Bucky Brooks and John Oehser stop in. The inactives right around the corner as well. We're about an hour and a half away from kickoff in Week 4 for the Falcons and Jaguars. And from Wembley Stadium, London, this is the Publix Tailgate Show on Jaguars Radio.
As the official supermarket of the Jacksonville Jaguars, Publix is helping fans gear up for game day with the limited-time Jaguars sub. Piled high with hot deli chicken tenders, boar's head bacon, cheddar cheese, coleslaw, and barbecue mayonnaise on a white sub roll. The Jaguars sub is an easy, delicious meal for any fan. Make it an ultimate game day by ordering the Jaguars sub online for in-store pickup. Publix, where shopping is a pleasure.
Unlock your potential at the University of North Florida. A top public university with more than 100 majors, UNF is number one among state schools with the highest percentage of graduates employed in Florida. Affordable tuition, programs in high-demand fields, and faculty who care. Swoop into your future at UNF. Visit unf.edu to learn more.
Honey, are you using the hot water?
No.
The water's cold again. How can we fix it? Did you just quack like a duck?
Yep. Duck Rooter, your plumbing pros in Northeast Florida. For water heater installation and service, including tankless water heaters, gas, or electric, call for a quote today.
When you're stuck, call the duck. 904-862-6769.
When it comes to water, choose our team, the winning team. Choose CGC Water Treatment. CGC Water Treatment works, and it works for DG too. Former Jags QB, David Garrard.
If you're not filtering your water, you are the filter. Don't be the filter. Discover the Kinetico difference.
Call CGC Water Treatment at 844-CGC-JAGS or visit cgcwater.com. CGC Water Treatment are proud partners of the Jacksonville Jaguars and your local independent Kinetico dealers.
Are you suffering from shoulder pain? If you have clicking and popping in the shoulder joint, persistent pain that intensifies with use, an inability to lift your arm over your head, or a tingling, burning sensation in the shoulder, elbow, or wrist, waiting to see a doctor could make your injury worse. Baptist Health and Jacksonville Orthopedic Institute have innovative and effective treatment options available right now to relieve your pain and restore your mobility. Don't wait. Call 904-JOI-2000.
Frank Frangie here. When you want barbecue in Jacksonville, you want Bono's Pit Barbecue. You can find Bono's locations all around town and on game day at Everbank Stadium because Bono's is the official barbecue of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Over 70 years of authentic Southern Pit Barbecue. We are the local barbecue joint in BBQval for generations of people in Jacksonville. Go to bonosbarbecue.com to learn more or call 904-880-8310 today. And remember, if you don't see a pit, it ain't legit.
JP Shadrick from Wembley Stadium, London. Mike Dempsey in the Hyundai Studios. The Atlanta Falcons and the Jacksonville Jaguars coming up at 2:30 London time kick. 9:30 a.m. in Jacksonville. Temperature in the low 70s today. The English sun is popping in and out of the fast-moving clouds overhead. The roof covers most of the 90,000 seats here at Wembley. 87,000 or so will be used today for the Jaguars-Falcons matchup. The inactives are in. Let's get to the Jaguars first. Jamal Agnew out, thigh injury. That means the Jaguars have elevated Jacob Harris, wide receiver again. It also means Parker Washington is active. He'll make his NFL debut today as the punt returner for the Jaguars. Dearness Johnson most likely will return kickoffs for the Jags today. Elijah Cooks is scratched. He's inactive, wide receiver. Antonio Johnson has not played yet. He did get some work on the practice field Friday. That's a good step in the right direction here in London. But the rookie safety is out. Zay Jones with a knee injury is out. He is on the trip, though. We'll see what happens next week. Devin Lloyd did not make the trip to London, so he's out not only this week, but next week as well with a hand and thumb injury. Mike, what you got for the Falcons?
Well, for the Falcons, JP, Logan Woodside is officially the emergency third quarterback, but he is inactive today. 5 other inactives will join him, including rookie corner Clark Phillips III, offensive lineman Javon Gwynn, wide receiver Josh Ali, and a pair of defensive linemen Albert Huggins and Joe Gaziano. What that means is that Cordero Patterson will make his 2023 debut. He hasn't played the first 3 games, and he has been listed as an offensive weapon, a joker in the Atlanta Falcons offense. Can line up as a wide receiver in the backfield, can be a good return man, and just adds another dimension to an already complicated Falcons running game.
Yeah, he's not played yet this season. As you said, those are the inactives. They are in, and we are here at Wembley. JP Shadrick with Bucky Brooks, NFL Network analyst, Jaguars sideline analyst, with a nice fresh scarf that you probably bought outside today, Bucky?
No. I was able to go down with the legend, Fred Taylor. We were talking to some Jaguars fans, and they were gifting these. So, if it's free, it's me. So I had to ask for a little scarf to make sure I made myself at home in the UK.
Well, it looks great. Looks like you fit right in. John Oehser fits right in the UK, too.
I thought that scarf was awesome. Then I found out it was a free scarf, and it's even better. So, congrats. You're 1-0 today, buddy.
1-0.
Let the win streak continue
That's
a little
right.
later for this Jags team if you're getting free scarves here. Okay, let's start with the Jaguars offense and what the heck is going on. Drops, penalties last week. Trevor's got guys flashing across his face. I mean, there's a lot happening there. Tyler Shatley's going in at left guard today. So that's one note. Calvin Ridley's got to get his head on right, against his former team today, Bucky.
Yeah, the very emotional game. So we'll start with Calvin Ridley first. Emotional game, anytime you play one of your former teams, you want to perform at your best. So there's some redemption, some revenge, whatever you want to call it. He's going to have all of those emotions, and maybe this will be the game that he needs to kind of kickstart what should be a productive run for him for the Jaguars.
Yeah, you hope. It seems I don't think he's rusty. He says he's not pressing. I think anybody who's watched him, if he's not, then I'm not sure what it looks like. And you hope that somehow that adds up to being more calm, more in the moment today, because he's big. I mean, it just feels like his want to. I mean, it's intense desire on his part to perform, just like I think it is for the entire offense. It sort of seems intertwined. It seems to represent what's going on with this team right now. And I've gotten some emails from fans saying, stop talking about the pressing. They're just not playing well. Well, JP, I think it's the same thing, and I don't know how you watch this team offensively the first few weeks without thinking that. I don't know how you get through it, but I've said all week it's an interesting game because they clearly, in the big moments, have not performed. They've got to relax, but it's an urgent day today. So how you balance that is what I'm watching for today.
Guys, how
Yeah,
much?
that's good.
Yeah, I'm sorry,
Yeah, that's
Bucky.
a good
Go
point.
ahead.
No. I think this is a good point John makes about the balance between the urgency and relaxing and playing. I do feel like there's a sense of pressure hovering around this team because of all the expectations coming into it. We talked about an offense that could score 30-plus points, wide receivers galore, running back, and all the weapons that they have, but they haven't played to that. At some point, though, you're going to break the glass. It's just a matter of, is the breakthrough going to be today, or we're going to have to wait a few more weeks before we finally see this team play to their expectation?
Better not wait, Mike.
Can the way to get the offense going maybe is to rely a little bit more on Travis Etienne, averaging over 4 yards a carry, and he's been getting it done. Had a pretty good game last week despite the offense's overall struggles, and for the second week in a row, they're going to be facing a defense without their middle linebacker as Troy Anderson was placed on injured reserve.
Yeah, I thought if there was a good sign from last week early, it was that they got the running game going, and I sort of felt if the game hadn't gotten away from them, if they had a lead rather than been trailing by 14, I thought it could have been a huge day for Etienne. I thought they were capable of controlling it. But when you get behind in the second half, you can't do it. Etienne, I think, has been their best player, their most consistent player offensively. I would anticipate something similar to that today because early on last week, you get the idea. I said that Doug, I believe, would have his foot in their butt all week, if you follow me. It seemed like he did it at halftime last week, and they came out running the ball real well in the second half. So I would anticipate something like that today, Buck.
The other thing I would anticipate is the game plan will be structured around players, not plays. This is a game when you want to get right, figure out who the best players are, and put the ball in their hands and let them determine the outcome. So Travis Etienne's been playing well. I would expect he to have a big part of the workload. The passing game can be a little different because there's a feel that they're trying to force feed number 0, Calvin Ridley.
That's what it's felt like. Yeah.
Maybe this is a little more organic or maybe a little more intentional to get the ball to everyone else. And the easiest way to do that to help the quarterback, more bubble screens on the perimeter with everyone touching the ball early, have everyone kind of get into the game, have a little confidence going, get Trevor into a rhythm, and then begin to attack down the field.
Bucky Brooks and John Oehser with us here at Wembley Stadium in London. Mike Dempsey back in Jacksonville. The Falcons and Jaguars coming up. Simple question, not a simple answer likely, but how do you slow down Bijan Robinson, or do you take the Lions blueprint from last week?
Oh, I mean, I think you absolutely take the Lions blueprint. And the National Football League, what you normally do is you want to make sure that the team has answered the questions to the test that plagued them the previous week. So because the Lions were able to throttle that offense, you want to do some elements that the Lions used in their game plan. You want to bring some of that out to see if the Falcons have addressed it. If they haven't, then you give them the same game plan. But, yeah, you want to make sure you take care of the running game. This has to be a game that at the end, we're talking about Desmond Ridder had to throw it 30-plus times because you took away the running game.
Yeah, you sure don't want on a day where it feels like the Jaguars are pressing when behind, you sure don't want the Falcons getting a lead and feeling like they can run you out of the building. They're a team capable of that. You would think on paper this is a good matchup for the Jags. They pride themselves on stopping the run, JP. If you go in the locker room, they see every week, got to do that first before you rush the passer. Is there a bigger test on their schedule than that today, JP?
I don't know if there is, Mike. I mean, this is if they can get rolling with the tight ends they have and everything, that can be a formidable test today.
Yeah, Kyle Pitts is an interesting player because he's got all this athletic ability and it still feels like he's been underutilized in the Falcons' passing game. But again, that kind of goes back to, I think, for this year at least, they're content to not let Desmond Ridder throw it all over the place. He's just not that accomplished as a quarterback yet. So if they can beat you, or at least keep it close by relying on Bijan Robinson, Tyler Algier, now Cordero Patterson available today, and those tight ends, they're going to do that. They're going to play it close to the vest.
Yeah, look, I would think that they would play it close to the vest. One of the things that we know about Arthur Smith believes in the running game, and he's a throwback when it comes to the way they approach it. You watch the work that he did with Derrick Henry in Tennessee. He's continued to do similar things with the Atlanta Falcons. They're going to test the Jaguars' ability to stop the run, and even if the Jaguars stop in the first and second quarter, they're going to continue to be persistent when it comes to that. And it won't just be Bijan Robinson, Tyler Algier, Cordero Patterson being up. You now have a three-headed monster being able to touch the ball. We got to be careful. We got to eliminate the running game early. This has to be a Desmond Ridder needs to throw the ball game.
Yeah, let him pat the ball in the pocket, John, all day long, and then go get him. Yeah,
but the fascinating thing to me about Arthur Smith when he was with Tennessee, and some of this was Vrabel, they're a team that even when they're down 14, Arthur Smith believes he can run his way back into the game. How many times during that era did you see Tennessee be down 10? Usually teams are throwing, and they come out passing. They believe in the run with this system to that degree. So I don't know if getting ahead necessarily takes them out of the running game.
Well, here at Wembley, the Jaguars have not won in this stadium since 2017. Since then, there's been a new field installed. Before last season's game, it's 3% synthetic, 97% real grass, and it is, from what I was told in the locker room, they feel like some of the guys, it's the best surface they've ever seen here at Wembley. So it used to be a slip and slide. Might be a little bit of that
It
early.
Looks much different the first time he came here, JP, no doubt.
Yeah. Not even close. I mean, at one time, remember, they were still building Tottenham Hotspur, and there were 3 straight games here. The Jags were the third of those games. It looked like a cow pasture out there.
Well, I had a chance to walk the field early, had a chance to kind of act like an old player, just did a little walk around to kind of feel what the surface is like. And you guys talk about it is low, it is fast. It didn't feel as slick as you guys have described in previous years, but we'll see really, really early. This is one where the MVP may be the equipment guys. The ability to change out shoes, swap out shoes early to make sure that you're able to secure your footing could be the key to being able to win because you got to be able to stay on your feet.
There you have it. The Huddle Up with Bucky Brooks show every Wednesday, 4 o'clock. Jaguars.com and the Jags social channels. And we'll have that live Wednesday at the Pavilion Inn Pub near St. Paul's. If you're in London, come see us. We'll air it 5 to 7 London time Wednesday. It will run again 4 o'clock on Jaguars.com. John, you got to be there.
Yeah, and if you're not in London, fly over for the show.
Why not?
Yeah.
Why wouldn't you? You know, it's worth it. Have a pint. On John. John's buying.
have a pint on the Jags.
There you have it. Hey, we're in a moment. We'll come back. Jaguars Radio Network coverage 20 minutes away. Countdown to kickoff starts at 8:30 Eastern. We'll return with a fantasy forecast, and Frank Frangie will join us here at Wembley Stadium. The Falcons and the Jaguars coming up at 2:30 London time kick, 9:30 in Jacksonville. And from Wembley Stadium, this is the Publix Tailgate Show on Jaguars Radio.
As the official supermarket of the Jacksonville Jaguars, Publix is helping fans gear up for game day with the limited-time Jaguars sub. Piled high with hot deli chicken tenders, boar's head bacon, cheddar cheese, coleslaw, and barbecue mayonnaise on a white sub roll. The Jaguar sub is an easy, delicious meal for any fan. Make it an ultimate game day by ordering the Jaguar sub online for in-store pickup. Publix, where shopping is a pleasure.
This is a tribute to all you plumbing do-it-yourselfers.
You do it yourself, yeah.
The extremely handy who know what's up to code.
You know the building code.
How to solder pipes.
Fire up the torch.
Snake a drain.
Got your own snake.
How to fix a leaky U-joint or P-trap.
You get up under your sink, you work upside down, yeah.
We salute your drive, free time, and courage. For the rest of you who just want it done right and done quickly, Duck Duck Rooter won't disappoint you. Visit duckduckrooter.com.
Flight by Yingling is the next generation of light beer. For those who don't follow trends, but craft them. Flight by Yingling is 12 ounces of uncompromised refreshment from America's oldest brewery. With only 2.6 grams of carbs and 95 calories, this is premium refreshment 6 generations in the making. Don't just raise a glass, raise the bar. Flight by Yingling. Available wherever beer is sold. DG Yingling & Son Incorporated, Pottsville, Pennsylvania. Please enjoy responsibly.
Touchdown at Jaguars away games when you fly nonstop from Jacksonville International Airport. Join the Jaguars in New Orleans and Pittsburgh. Watch them win in Houston and Nashville. All the other Jaguars games are just one short connection away. And if airport parking has you stressed, be sure to visit the Jax Airport website before traveling to the terminal. On it, you'll find information about the status of on-airport parking in real time. See if your favorite areas are available or if you need to call an audible. Visit flyjax.com for more information.
Everyone wins when two great traditions team up. Yucatan Guacamole is a proud partner of the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Our authentic guacamole recipe starts with hand-scooped avocados and ends up in your hands fresh and ready to enjoy. Grab some on game day at the Yucatan Cantina or Yucatan nacho carts around the stadium or at local retail stores. Sack your snack game with Yucatan Guacamole.
Want to make sure he gets to the game on time?
Tommy, your uniform is ready. Let's go.
Install a natural gas dryer, and you're guaranteed faster drying times and softer laundry. And now you can earn a valuable cash rebate up to $200 on an energy-efficient natural gas dryer. Show your home love with natural gas, and it loves you right back. To learn more and how to qualify, visit peoplesgas.com/rebates.
This is the Publix Tailgate Show. Publix, where shopping is a pleasure. JP Shadrick at Wembley Stadium. Mike Dempsey in the Hyundai Studios. The Falcons and the Jaguars coming up. It's a 9:30 a.m. Eastern kickoff time at Wembley under the arch today in London. Let's get a fantasy forecast. Mike Dempsey, what you got in week 4?
All right, JP, got some of the latest news coming out this morning, including the fact that fourth-round rookie quarterback Aiden O'Connell is going to get the start for Las Vegas versus the Chargers today with regular starter Jimmy Garoppolo out with a concussion. So, look, I'm still going to play Devontae Adams, but I think maybe you consider your options with a guy like Jacoby Myers or anywhere further down the depth chart. We don't know what O'Connell's going to do. He looked good in the preseason, but making his first start in the NFL. And on the other side, Austin Eckler is officially doubtful, so you can expect him not to play. But Joshua Kelly has not been much of a fantasy answer despite getting a couple of starts in the last few weeks, so avoid him if at all possible. There is reportedly optimism in New Orleans that quarterback Derek Carr could be able to play today despite a shoulder injury. Jameis Winston ready to go if Carr is unable to. I don't think it matters that much if you're playing a New Orleans Saints wide receiver. Jameis Winston has that gunslinger mentality, particularly with Chris Olave. You're not taking him out of the lineup. Alvin Kamara is back for the Saints as well, probably helping a lot of running back starved rosters right now. Cleveland quarterback Deshaun Watson reportedly be a game-time decision to face Baltimore. He also has a shoulder injury in his throwing shoulder. He said he'll definitely play, but players are always overly optimistic about their availability. Dorian Thompson-Robinson and P.J. Walker, the other quarterbacks on that roster. So consider your options if one of them has to play, and you've got a guy like Amari Cooper or particularly Elijah Moore further down the depth chart. David Njoku, by the way, is questionable. We mentioned that earlier when we went around the NFL. Had a fire pit accident in the last couple of days. They say he'll be okay, but unsure if he'll be able to go. Questionable players to keep an eye on today include Carolina running back Miles Sanders. Early reporting is he will be able to go today. In the late afternoon window, you've got Marquise Brown of the Arizona Cardinals, who's questionable, along with Deebo Samuel of San Francisco. Tyler Higbee, the Rams tight end, has an Achilles injury that has him listed as questionable. Joining Eckler on the doubtful list is Saquon Barkley, who doesn't suit up until Monday night, but likely doesn't suit up at all. So Matt Breida will get a spot start. He's not the worst option this week against Seattle. Players that have been ruled out already include Rashad Bateman and Odell Beckham Jr. of the Ravens, Treylon Burks of Tennessee, and Cincinnati tight end Irv Smith.
All right, Mike, thank you very much. Fantasy Forecast is in. Week 4 starting at 9:30 a.m. Eastern with the Jaguars and the Falcons here at Wembley. We welcome in Frank Frangie here in the broadcast. What is this, table, I guess? It's not even a
area.
booth.
The broadcast area is where we are.
The area, it's an open air on 2 top tables, and we're on about the 25-yard line here at Wembley again. 10th trip for the Jaguars to the UK, 9th in this stadium, and they haven't won here since 2017 in this stadium. So they got to get that going. But, boy, this year they've got a lot of things to work out from last week's game as well. There's a lot on the plate today.
You know, it's been an interesting first chapter, hadn't it, JP, that all the expectations in the offseason, find a way to win the first game, not playing your best, but win by 10 on the road. People feel pretty good. And then it's been a couple tough weeks. You played the best team in football and lost, and then didn't play very well last week. They know that. It's a long year, man. This is a season that starts around Labor Day and ends around Valentine's Day. So the NFL season's a long year. But at some point you got to get that corrected. I think this is a very important game for the Jaguars to play well, to get rid of some of the stuff that is driving Doug Peterson crazy. So it's in a very, very important game for Jacksonville. Venue notwithstanding, it's an important game for where they are right now.
Yeah, defensively, you know, we've talked about it all day already, but the running game, the tight ends, Ritter's ability to keep plays alive and move it down the field. They haven't used, he hasn't been great in the passing game yet. You don't want him to start that today, by the way. But they're a strong football team in the run game especially.
Yeah, logic would tell you the Jags match up okay from that standpoint, because the Jags have been better against the run. They haven't rushed the passer well. We all know the narrative at this point, JP. So you would think that. But the Falcons are pretty good. They're better than they've been. I agree with you. And this Bijan Robinson's really good. And they're playing with a toughness, and they've gained a little confidence because of the way the season has started for them. So, yeah, there's no easy ones in the NFL anyway. But even if you're playing well and the other guy's not, well, that's not the case here. The Falcons have played better to start the season, regardless of what happened last week. The Falcons have played better to start the season than the Jaguars have. That's the reality, and that's not lost in this team. I'll tell you this, though. For whatever reason, and sometimes we overthink this stuff, but the Jaguars last year were a pretty good team when doubted, and that was most of the time, particularly after the 3-7 start. So right now there's some doubts, and maybe that's when these guys kind of find themselves, because that's kind of who they've been.
Yeah, they left here 2-6 last season, and after the loss here at London. That's Frank Frangie. I'm JP Shadrick from Wembley Stadium, London. Devin Lloyd out and did not make the trip, so he'll be out next week as well. Chad Muma jumping into that starting lineup, another second-year linebacker, and big test today with all those guys we just talked about.
Yeah, I think Chad is probably a guy better in run fits than he is in coverage. So, again, it's the right game to have to play if you had to do that. But, yeah, there's a reason your starters are your starters. No matter how deep you are, there's a reason the guys that start. And so, they're going to be down a few players, but we've seen some of the inactives already. So that whole next man up thing's got to matter. But you better believe it with Muma. This is an opportunity for him. Look, he's a good player. He was drafted, and they had some expectations and some hope for him when they drafted him. Well, now's the time, JP. Now you're in. Last year he came in a couple times when Devin Lloyd just needed a few games to kind of get his head about him. But now he's hurt. So now Chad Muma's got to play. This is a very important moment for him, and he's got to play well against a good running team that's going to run Bijan Robinson at you over and over and over. Really big moment for Chad Muma.
Offensively, we know about the offensive line struggles, especially in the interior. Tyler Shatley's going to start today. That's one change. Anton Harrison's playing through a couple of kind of injury situations. So that group collectively, and then next week Cam Robinson is eligible to come back.
Yeah.
So there's all these moving parts here in London up front.
Yeah, a couple things. Number one, Ben Bartz was on the PUP list for a big part of that whole camp thing, and I'm not sure he ever got his legs under him. He hasn't played well. I think it's fair to say Ben Bartz has not been playing well. So and we all know that. So Shatley, remember, was the left guard when this team made this run last year. He was the left guard who was in the game when that was happening. So I expect him to play well. I think what becomes interesting is when Cam Robinson's available. I'm getting ahead of myself here. But when he's available, does Walker Little slide inside, and then what do you do at that point? But I expect Tyler Shatley to play well. He was a very good left guard for them in that very important run last year. I really do believe that, and I think he's healthy now. Obviously, he had the AFib issue. I think he's healthy, and I'm very interested to see how he plays at left guard.
It's his 8th London game all time, the most ever in the NFL. And the teammates were saying in a story earlier this week they might take him out for an afternoon tea next week just to celebrate the record.
He
for
belongs
Shatley.
here for
yeah,
sure.
Why not? And 2 consecutive games shy of Zelenka's franchise record, by the way, of tying that. So getting close to some records there. Calvin Ridley against the Falcons. Foye Oluokun against the Falcons. Those 2 guys stepping up today.
And Ridley's got to – listen, he's been wearing this all week long. He didn't play well last week. He had a couple drops and the big drop to start the game, and he knows that. So I think that's critical too. There's so many storylines. You know, at some point, JP, we love this trip. We have you're here every year. I'm here every year. We love being around this. We love the setting. We love London. We love the way the Jags fans respond here. I think we all love everything about this. But, man, this football team's got to play well today.
Yes, they do.
Beyond all that stuff, Calvin Ridley's got to play better. Foyer's got to play well against his old team. They're better than they played last week. And you know that, and we know that, and I think they know that. This is a really important game in a different setting at a different time to get that figured out.
We might know that, but you got to see it.
That's right. And they have to see it, too. You know, no matter how good you think you might be, if you're not playing well, you lose some confidence. So I think all that's in play. I really do.
Frank Frangie, have a great call, and we'll see you this week at the pub parties.
Yes,
I think, right?
you're kind of the king of the pub parties. I know that. So I know who the mayor is. If you hang out with the mayor, if I just stay close to the mayor, you get the pint spot for you and everything. I'm going to stay close to you, JP, and then that's the plan. That's kind of the plan.
It was a hell of a scene last night. I'll say that.
I wasn't there, but I have no doubt.
Throughout the week when we have our shows here in the afternoon, Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then another pub party on Saturday as well. Have a great call, Frank.
Thanks, JP.
Frank Frangie out of here. Coming up next is Jaguars Radio Network coverage with Countdown to Kickoff, the top stories of the day. You'll hear from Pride of the Jaguars running back Fred Taylor and the final word before kickoff with Jags head coach Doug Peterson. Falcons, Jaguars in just over an hour. And from Wembley Stadium, London, this is the Publix Tailgate Show on Jaguars Radio.